I think this sign pretty much speaks well of itself, but I gather from what our guide said, a couple hundred kings from Norway, Scotland, and Ireland were buried here or hereabouts. There's one of the remaining crosses, I guess you call them Celtic crosses, which are left here. Originally, there were a whole bunch of them here, but in 1500 or thereabouts, the Presbyterian administration in Scotland said these were idolatry symbols, and they came over here and they threw all of them into the water there, except these two which remain. So that's too bad. But this is the castle, or Lord's Manor, or whatever you want to call it. A reconstruction, I believe. This is the chapel for the Iona Castle. And Mom says that there are the sarcophagi. Where are they, David?
To the right.
For the Duke and Duchess of Argyll. Everybody's taking pictures. Here's the sarcophagi of the Duke and Duchess of Argyll, who I guess died in around 1900. But they owned this, and then eventually ran out of money and turned it over to the state.
Sculpture.
Here's our ship, the Boreal, way off in the distance.
Isn't this wonderful? I'm heading back.
Me too.
Unfortunately, it is raining. Mom and I have come down from the chapel, the castle, back down where we started.
It's not a castle. Iona Abbey.
Well, Denny says it's not a castle, but I think she's wrong. It's Iona Castle, or Iona Abbey. But now we're going to get on this small ferry boat here. This looks a little bit like an LST. And that'll take us across the strait to the Isle of Mull. Now we're at Courcy Castle, right near Duart Castle. I went to Choate with a very good friend of mine by the name of Bill Duart, spelled differently than they spell it here, who unfortunately died a few years ago. Pretty rhododendron. And there's the princess. This is the front of Courcy Castle where we had our lunch, built in 1856.
Sunshine again.
As a Victorian
Off and on.
style mansion, not a castle. And if you look at the detail work over the doorway, pretty good. Good stonework. But most of these kinds of buildings that were built in the Victorian age have been torn down. They just can't keep them up. And there's the local dog. So now we're in Duart Castle, D-U-A-R-T, as opposed to my friend who spelled his name D-E-W-A-R-T. Looking out over the, it's not the Firth of Mull, it's the Mull passageway or something like that.
How enjoyed your visit? Oh, it's wonderful. Good. Delighted. So you're planning on a visit to the gift shop or the tea room? If like, yeah. We have to be on the bus and we're late. Oh.
Distant view of Duart Castle, which was indeed a castle. Tourasay, which we saw a few minutes ago, was really a palatial home built for show, but not for any military protection purposes. Now the bus has just left us off here in Tobermory, where we'll take the tenders back to our boat.
Isn't it just precious?
Tobermory is the name of the place that Mom and I took the ferry from up in Canada, in Ontario, when we were coming back from one of our fishing trips. And it ran from Georgian Bay. I forget what that body of water was. Manitoulin Island. Not as pretty as this place. Well, I thought I'd take this picture while Mother's in at the post office trying to negotiate for some stamps after we just exchanged. We got some British pounds through the ATM. Just like being at home. Well, I've only got 40 minutes of recording time left, so maybe I should quit. There's our ship out there. This is 7:15 on Friday morning. We've been cruising all night, very calm. And this is the Isle of Skye. We're heading for a town called Pottery. P-R-I-E. Looks like a good day. We're on the Isle of Skye now, not
the drovers as they took the cattle south. They would then have to swim the cattle across from Skye to the mainland, and the shortest route was one of the routes that I mentioned earlier on, from Kyle-Ray to Glenelg, where I said there was a small community ferry, and they would swim the cattle across the Highland cattle. They would tie the tail of the first one to the horn of the second one, and so on. They had about 6 of them in a row behind a rowing boat, and they would take them across that short crossing from Kyle-Ray. Water that's used passes through the sort of quite acidic peaty ground that we have here, and single malt whisky Talisker. John was just saying that when we get back into Portree, he'll take anyone who wants to go for a Talisker. He'll buy them all a nice large Talisker whisky. That I've been talking a little bit about, and the reason that I talk quite a lot about it is it's so important to how we live our lives here. Crofts are basically small farms, and we see the strips of land across there on the left hand side with the croft house at the top, strip of land below it.